19th of March 1996. A publican is killed with a blast from a shotgun while counting the day's takings in his pub in County Wicklow.
A man who was known well and a man who was well liked and a person who was well respected.
His wife is also apparently attacked, woken from her sleep by someone pressing her face into a pillow, a knife in his hand.
She said that a man came and had put his hand over her mouth and was shouting, "Where's the jewellery? Where are the effing jewels?"
It was cold, it was calculating, it was brutal. And in a way, it was motivated by greed.
What appears to be a robbery gone wrong turns into something altogether different when the truth behind the attacks is eventually revealed.
The country had never seen anything like this in many respects. It was like the plot of a film.
You know, you had love, you had hate, you had money, you had loads of sex, you had the IRA, and then you had a husband who was a really well-liked, quite gentle giant of a man, and then you had this bitch who wanted him dead.
Evidence eventually points to Catherine Nevin, the woman the press nickname the Black Widow.
She wanted the extramarital affairs. She wanted the money. She wanted the business. And she wanted to have friends in high places. She had all of that. The only thing that was in her way was Tom Nevin.
Her trial is a national cause célèbre, and the events that night in Jack White's becomes one of Ireland's most shocking crimes. White's is located close to British Bay, a popular weekend venue for large numbers of Dublin families. All summer, Dubliners flock to the many caravan parks and private holiday homes located nearby.
It was a very popular pub around that area at that time and was obviously hugely popular with holidaymakers because a lot of people from Dublin came down from Dublin to British Bay right throughout the whole summer, and also, you know, a lot of people from Arklow would have went out there to the beaches, etc. So it was a very, very popular pub in the greater Wicklow area.
It's not the sort of violent crime you'd expect to happen in a country pub. But in March 1996, Jack White's, one of Ireland's most famous roadside hostelries, was the scene of an extraordinary murder. Its owner, 54-year-old Tom Nevin, was killed by a shotgun blast as he began to shut up his premises for the night. The event would shock patrons and neighbours of the quiet, unassuming publican.
A number of the locals had all expressed off the record utter disgust and shock. And then we began to learn the true story of what was actually happening in Jack White's.
It was a robbery on the upper scale of brutality. And of course, when the ballistics result came through and you see what Tom had been killed with, a bullet of that caliber, which is used normally for shooting big deer or wildlife, you say this was a very cruel act. I'd say building up a business like Jack White's took tenacity and it took skill from a business perspective. Tom was the businessman.
And Catherine was the socialiser.
She loved gossip, she loved talk, she loved attention, and she loved knowing people's business, so she was always mooching around.
She was more interested in high-profile people coming at holiday weekends and looking after what she thought were a better class of customer.
While the pub was always full during the summer, the winter months, the bar was generally populated by a hardcore of regulars. It was rumoured that her friendships with some men in the locality had become more than platonic.
By the time Catherine and Tom had bought Jack White's, their marriage was being described as loveless. They slept in separate rooms and so on. There's no doubt that in the years after they bought Jack White's, that marriage deteriorated, and Catherine, by a number of accounts, had affairs with a large number of men, and sometimes right in Tom's face, for want of a better word, which was a source of huge humiliation for him.
Catherine Nevin said that she'd been in the bed, that she had been reading the newspaper and fallen asleep.
When two men burst into her room, pushed her head into the pillow and were demanding jewellery.
She said that a man came and was shouting, "Where's the jewellery? Where are the effing jewels?"
He tied her up with football headbands and the belt of a dressing gown. So she said that she had her wrists tied with numerous knots and her feet were tied, and then she was hog-tied, her wrists to her feet.
Her initial statement to Gardaí was that she had actually been bound and gagged and mistreated. Jewellery was thrown about the place in pretty dishevelled manner.
So after she was tied up, the raiders left the room. At that time then she heard the sound of a saucepan falling downstairs.
As if there was a pot dropping. And she said that was the only sound that she had heard.
So they left and she could hear 2 cars leaving the pub. One of those cars being Tom Nevin's own car. She struggled then to free herself. She said that she managed to free the bindings on her ankles and make her way downstairs to the lobby, the front hall, and press a panic attack alarm.
When 54-year-old publican Tom Nevin was shot dead while preparing to close Jack White's pub in March 1996, his shocking death led to a full-scale Garda investigation.
They found Tom on the floor in the kitchen in a pool of blood, devastating injury to his chest.
Tom Nevin never had a chance.
All the evidential aspects of it were accumulating, possibly pointing in another direction.
The front door had not been damaged in any way. No fingerprints were found anywhere in the property as ballistics guys got to work over the next couple of days.
The jewellery from Catherine's bedroom was strewn along the corridors upstairs, down the stairs, through the pub, down towards the kitchen, like a trail to follow.
But interestingly, despite what Catherine had claimed about the raiders looking for jewellery, it later emerged that they never got any jewellery at all. And in fact, the only fingerprints that were found on Catherine Nevin's jewellery box were her own.
What struck me about Tom Nevin's funeral was that Catherine didn't cry. Catherine had stood there in a very well publicised photograph with a red rose to her face. Willie McLean's words to me were, he told her, "You must be fucking joking." He said that he couldn't believe that she had the naivety, as I remember he described it at the time, to come to him so openly and publicly and ask him to kill Tom. He said he asked her why, and he said that she said Tom was beating her up, that Tom was abusive and violent towards her. And Willie McLean did not believe that for 1 minute and said that he would not help her. John Jones was another of Catherine Nevin's male acquaintances. He ran a Sinn Féin advice clinic in Finglas. He said that Catherine Nevin had approached him on a number of occasions asking that her husband be assassinated. Jerry Heaps then went to his associates and told them what Catherine Nevin was trying to get him to get the IRA to do. He then gave evidence that he had spoken to 2 men in a pool hall and that the men had said Catherine Nevin had to be watched and that everything was to be reported.
Catherine Nevin is to be charged with murder, but she is also to be charged with 3 counts of soliciting to murder.
It was generally the feeling that Catherine got a kick out of being the centre of attention.
Catherine Nevin did play for the media. The media were fascinated by this woman, the clothes that she wore, the makeup she had, the books she read.
The way that she acted seemed to suggest that she loved the celebrity of it, and it was hard to ignore this kind of behaviour. From the minute she took the witness box, Catherine Nevin just did what she always did, which was tell compulsive, pathological lies.
She denied having approached not 1, not 2, but 3 separate individuals, one of them with pretty serious Republican connections, to murder Tom Nevin. The lies went on and on and on. Lies of him being an alcoholic, lies of him being a wife beater, unless Gardaí make a breakthrough as to identifying the murderer. I don't believe we will ever find out who pulled the trigger on Tom Nevin.